thanks so much for tuning us in here on the Weather Channel on this Christmas morning now in the east, still Christmas Eve in the west, and that's where we're going to start off in the west, where we have a big spiral here, folks, and it is putting down some Christmas snow for parts of Colorado and into the mountains of New Mexico here. Even into some of the mountains here of southeast Arizona, some moisture working up from the Gulf of California into those higher elevations, generally above 7,000 feet, getting a pretty good white dusting. This is actually the third storm system to move into the Four Corners area within the past week or so. Each one has dumped a fair amount of snow, and this one is going to be no different, probably into New Mexico for the most part, southeast Arizona, and parts of Colorado. As far as the rest of the west, things pretty tranquil on the far west coast. It has been very windy, actually, with a difference in pressure between our storm to the south and this high up over Washington. Out through the Sierra Nevada, some very gusty winds. Again, over about 6,000 or 7,000 feet, there has been some high wind warnings there in the Sierra Nevada. Now, normally you would say, oh, a big dome of high pressure here. It's going to be a beautiful Christmas. Got to be careful there. The sun is not very high in the sky. In fact, it's about at its lowest angle right about now. And all this fog that has formed around the Puget Sound there, and maybe even on down into the Willamette Valley into Oregon as we head on into tomorrow, it's going to be very, very tough to burn that off during the course of the day, so to speak. But other areas where you do get that fog, or if you're in the higher elevations that poke up above the lower clouds and fog, you will get some sunshine. There's the snow graphically represented from the high plains of western Nebraska and Kansas into Colorado and on down into northern New Mexico. On the radar, it shows up as some very light precipitation, maybe an inch or so around the Denver vicinity. And if you're traveling out I-70 on Christmas morning or maybe on up toward I-80, you might run into a little bit of festive kind of light snow. Down in New Mexico, again, some moisture working right up the Rio Grande here through Albuquerque. Again, there could be an inch or two of snow around Albuquerque, a little bit more as you head into the mountains to the east and west, particularly up into the Sandia Mountain there, crest. Then as we head farther south, more moisture working around. Remember, there's a big upper level storm spinning around right here, pulling this moisture up from the south. Rain around El Paso, but the mountains of south central New Mexico getting some locally heavy snow. Temperature-wise, these were your high temperatures as we headed through the day on Wednesday. 44 in Seattle, 39 in Medford, only 25 in Denver on Christmas Eve, and 35 in Albuquerque. It is 30 now, and again, there's the snow flying in that vicinity up towards Santa Fe and Taos perhaps eventually, and Chama may get some additional snow. 21 currently in Denver, and a very chilly evening in LA at 46 degrees, 52 in San Francisco. A little bit of a closer inspection. Again, it's foggy up here around Seattle and Tacoma and Olympia. 36 in Seattle. It's 33 right down there at sea level at Quileute. 34 at Astoria. Some chilly readings here, folks. 45 at Red Bluff, 48 at Sacramento. And you know what? There are freeze advisories in effect here for the Central Valleys of the San Joaquin there, and also into parts of Arizona as well. So this is some cold air which has filtered deep into the south. Edwards Air Force Base is below freezing right now. Ontario at 54. The Civic Center down to a chilly 46, and look at Santa Barbara down there along the coast at 41. So it's going to be a chilly start, definitely, to your Christmas morning. A couple of very minor quakes, one offshore here of Malibu, and another one just inland from San Diego. Both of those just a little over 2 on the Richter scale, and a few up near Bishop, California, a whole cluster of them a little over 2 on the Richter scale. Again, very, very minor quakes. Nothing in the Pacific Northwest. And as we head all the way on up into Alaska, up toward Fairbanks, a little over 3 on the Richter scale, and clustered down toward Valdez, a couple of 2s and a 3. So most of the quakes rather minor. We talked about our latest storm here in the southwest. And here's the one ahead of it, which has dumped a fair amount of snow, upwards of, I'd say about 6 to 8 inches in parts of eastern Iowa, northwest Illinois. I think around the Milwaukee area, you ended up with about 3. Chicago's O'Hare ended up with about 2 inches. That snow is really fading here rather quickly. Now a lot of the energy pushing on up into the northeast, where this moisture is overrunning some colder air. And where you get that colder air in northwest Connecticut up through the central Hudson Valley and maybe extreme northern tier counties of PA and up into New York, that's where you're going to get some sleet and freezing rain, at least to start. and then eventually it will probably go over to rain in places like Boston and Hartford and Providence, maybe a little sleet or freezing rain to start, then go to all rain. It's the interior areas that may have to deal with more in the way of some icing. And if you head well up to the north here, up toward the ski areas in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and extreme northeast New York, that is where you'll finally get into the snow. Most of the snow in parts of lower Michigan and into Wisconsin is really starting to die off pretty quickly now. Quick look at our forecast. Starts with Christmas morning. How about that? You're going to wake up to that fresh new snow in northern New England. Watch out for a little bit of an icy start to the day if you're going out for early Christmas services in southern New England, particularly away from the coast. You may run into a little bit of ice on some of the highways, some of the secondary roads in particular. And if you're headed on up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, the farther north you go, the better chance you're going to get into some snow.